All right, let's just jump right in. When you picture a Buddhist monk, what do you see? I bet it's a calm, peaceful person in a saffron robe meditating silently. It's the picture of serenity, right? This is the Buddhism we see everywhere, the one sold to us as this rational, atheistic philosophy, kind of like a workout for your brain. But what if that whole image, the very thing we think of as Western Buddhism, is actually a fabrication? A lie that was told simply to survive?
See, on one side, you've got that familiar, gentle philosopher. But then you look at how it's actually practiced in a place like Tibet, and it's something else entirely. We're talking about fierce, fanged gods, eyes bulging and bloodshot, wearing literal necklaces of severed heads, all surrounded by this inferno of fire. These two images, they just don't add up.
And that really brings us to the core question here. Have we been sold a sanitized version of Buddhism? One that's had all the tough, supernatural stuff stripped out to make it easier for us to swallow. The material we're digging into today suggests that maybe, just maybe, the atheism we associate with Buddhism isn't a core belief at all, but a strategic denial, a survival strategy cooked up centuries ago.
To help us unpack all this, we're going to lean on the research and teachings of a man named Osman, who you might know as the blind Muslim yogi. Now listen, he's not your typical scholar or historian. He's a master practitioner, and his perspective is, well, completely unique, and that's what makes this so fascinating.
This right here is the key to his whole approach. Osman isn't just reading ancient texts and debating semantics. He actually understands the mechanics of energy work. So when he looks at a ritual, he's not just seeing culture or tradition, he's seeing a powerful technology designed for a very specific purpose. And that understanding, it comes from an incredible amount of experience. We're talking about 50 years of rigorous, advanced-level, dedicated practice. Just think about that for a second. That's half a century spent honing these skills with a level of dedication that's almost impossible to imagine. And his background really shows the depth of that mastery. He's a master bioenergy healer, working with the body's subtle energy systems. He uses principles of quantum entanglement for telepathic healing, and he specializes in critical and even terminal illnesses. He had his first samadhi experience, that's a really profound state of consciousness, when he was just 19, and he spent his life studying traditions from all over the globe. And it's important to mention, Osman has been blind since May of 2023. So when you hear him describe things, he's drawing on a whole lifetime of normal eyesight. But now that experience is combined with 50 years of being able to perceive energy directly, which gives him this incredibly sharp, unique insight. So it's Osman's unique perspective that brings us to the core piece of evidence here, this weird paradox of having gods in a supposedly godless religion. Why would a simple philosophy of the mind need to call on powerful, external deities for protection? He points to figures like the goddess Terra. Now, she is not some gentle symbol for compassion, not at all. She's one of the Mahavidyas, the great wisdom goddesses. And these aren't just abstract ideas. They are seen as the raw, untamed cosmic forces of time, destruction, and even death itself. And here's the kicker. Practitioners call on Tara to save them from actual real-world dangers, like getting robbed. Let's be honest. A metaphor for your own inner courage isn't going to stop a guy with a knife, but an external deity? Well, that's a different story. This isn't philosophy, as Osman says. This is theistic protection magic, plain and simple. So why the denial? Why pretend these gods aren't real? Osman argues it all comes down to fear and survival. For literally centuries, Tibet has lived in the shadow of its massive, powerful, and very pragmatic neighbor, China, a civilization that has always valued order and control above everything else. And the price of that proximity has been absolutely devastating. The research we're looking at suggests that over 1 million Tibetans have been killed throughout history, and that this persecution was specifically tied to the worship of these very same fierce deities in their temples. You really have to try to see it from their side for a second. Imagine you're a pragmatic Chinese general, and you walk into a Tibetan temple. You don't see peace and quiet. You see these terrifying statues, and you hear monks chanting what sound like powerful incantations. To you, that doesn't look like religion. It looks like they're trying to summon a demon army. So what do you do when your own gods are making you a target? You change the story. You lie. You basically say, oh, those? No, those aren't real gods. They're just psychological symbols. We don't believe in any of that spooky stuff. We're just harmless philosophers. Atheism becomes a shield. It's camouflage, pure and simple, designed for survival.
And here's the thing, this wasn't some isolated incident that only happened in Tibet. Osman points out a powerful parallel to what happened under a totally different empire. It shows a clear pattern of this kind of suppression. Let's take a look at the sanitization of religion over in British-controlled India. This chart just lays it out so clearly. In Tibet, the problem was that their fierce deities looked like an insurgency. The pressure was military annihilation. And the adaptation? We are atheists. Now look at India. The British saw their tantric practices as barbaric. The pressure was colonial shame, public mockery. The adaptation? We are philosophers. It's the same tactic. In both cases, a powerful empire basically forced a native religion to hide its teeth just to survive. So when you put all of this evidence together, the paradox of the gods, the brutal history of persecution, this clear pattern of suppression, it all leads us to Osman's most explosive claim, as he tries to strip away all those layers of historical paint to get to the original truth. So here's the most important question. If the atheistic version of Buddhism was created specifically to stop armies from killing you, why on earth would we assume that's the original version? It seems far more likely that it's a later change, right? An adaptation? And this is it. This is the big, controversial assertion from the source, that the original Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama himself, wasn't just a peaceful philosopher. He was an active practitioner of tantric worship. It suggests the image of Buddha we all know is a historical construct, and that the truth might be something closer to a powerful sorcerer. And this brings us right back to today, and to Osman's mission. Because if this history is actually true, then what was suppressed wasn't just a religion. It was something way more practical and way more powerful. The way Osman frames it is this: if all those gods, goddesses, and incantations were actually advanced, practical methods for working with energy, methods that could heal, protect, and maybe even alter reality, then humanity has literally lost a technology. He calls it the software of the human spirit. It was lost because it was seen as too threatening by empires and politics. Osman's work today is all about trying to revive this lost science, and he's laid out a path for anyone who wants to explore it. You can start for free. He has a fantastic YouTube channel and even a free 5-minute yoga and meditation program you can download. From there, you can go deeper with paid lessons on his Patreon, get one-on-one consultations, and ultimately access his premium healing services for critical and terminal illnesses. You can find everything at yogawellness786.com. And Osman is always crystal clear about this. His services are meant to be complementary to modern medicine, not a replacement for it. His entire approach and why his services are at a premium level is built on those 50 years of intensive, rigorous practice, often up to 18 hours a day at certain stages, which has given him this uncommon ability to heal at very serious levels. So I'll leave you with this final thought. It really forces us to ask, how much of what we think of as ancient truth is actually just ancient political strategy? If you could strip away the pressure of history, if those armies had never marched, if we looked at a statue of the Buddha today, would we really see a peaceful philosopher? Or would we see a powerful sorcerer, wielding a technology that we're only now beginning to rediscover?